From the national headquarters of RT America here in our nation's capital, hello again, everybody. I'm Rick Sanchez. The question it almost feels like we have to begin our newscast with tonight is this: are we due for another recession? That question is salient today more than ever because it seems everywhere people seem to be talking about the signals, which is the economic lingo for this, is the indicators that seem to be screaming for attention on this day. So let's give them the attention they seem to be screaming for, right? Let's begin with the stock market. Let's look at this. The Dow hit a 3-month low today, and for the month, it's been down consistently by about 1,000 points. What else is down? World currencies. World currencies, 80% of the world's 143 currencies have fallen in value this year so far. But here's the big one that has everybody all shook up today. The bond market has investors kind of freaked out. Why? Because the U.S. 10-year Treasury yield hit a 20-month low, and it was surpassed by the 3-month Treasury bill. I know, to many of you, that may sound like gobbledygook. So here, let me try and break it down for you and try and explain to you what this really means. What this means is that investors have some confidence in the next 3 months, but not a lot of confidence in the next 10 years. Ouch. Let me say that again. They seem to have a lot of confidence in the next 3 months, but not a lot of confidence in the next 10 years. That's what we learned today. So what I just outlined for you is what you're going to read in most of your newspapers or see on CNN or CNBC or the BBC. Basics, right? What everybody was reporting on today. What reporters were pointing to, the Dow, the currencies, the bonds, and saying, oh, wow, look, could be a recession coming. But that's not really how it works, folks, because, see, if everybody's talking about it, as they say in the South, that ain't what's going to get you, right? If you see the snake won't bite you. Why? Because markets and people adjust. What gets you is what you don't see coming, more often than not. Maybe from as far away as China, for example. And that is what we're going to be talking about with RT's Christy I here on the News with Rick Sanchez, where we do believe it is time to do news again. Okay, so we're going to begin tonight with a very spooked market and fears of what could turn into a global recession. The spooky part is what the numbers seem to be saying. But if everybody's looking at the same numbers, they likely won't catch anybody by surprise, right? Usually, it's what we don't see coming that affects us. For example, in my book, Conventional Idiocy, I detailed how credit default swaps caused the 2008 meltdown because most people didn't even know what the hell they were. So it caught them by surprise, right? So now we ask the same question. What could be the potential trigger, like the credit default swaps may have been back in 2008, that can kind of bite us this time around? Joining us now is RT Boom Bust host Christy I, who's good enough to share some of her wisdom with us on this. First of all, do you agree with my assessment about that these indicators that we just talked about, that everybody's been big on all day, they've been the headline in every story, that they aren't necessarily what's going to be the problem, right? Exactly. I think the fears of the indicators are a little bit overblown because let's not forget these indicators are actually there because that's what traders actually did. That's a reflection of actual trader behavior, of them deleveraging from the market and actually switching to a more conservative approach to the market. They're de-risking and deleveraging because they're cautious. So in any case, in actuality, they're actually preventing a recession from happening by taking capital out of the market. So they're bailing out of the boat because they see the water's coming overboard. Exactly, and because they're bailing, then the water won't go overboard. So that's what people aren't seeing. You seem to think that what probably could get us or bite us in the behind, as I like to say, using the Southern refrains, is the possibility of some kind of tech war, now more than ever. Explain that to us. Exactly, because a recession doesn't just pop out of nowhere. It needs something to cause it. There has to be some sort of catalyst, a spark to cause the perfect storm. And right now, it seems like the perfect storm could be when the trade war gets escalated. And right now, we seem to be in an escalation phase. There are bluffs on both sides. Both sides are threatening each other. China
threatened the U.S. that they would reduce their exports of rare earth minerals. The U.S. threatened to claim that they are interfering with monetary policy and manipulating the currency. So those are both threats. What happens when those threats actually become actionable reactions to the market?
So there's a huge difference, and you say the trend has been more of a bluff scenario, and now what you see coming is we're moving into the non-bluff scenario. Actionable.
When actions, exactly. Yeah. And when you see the market's been spooked this much simply from the two sides calling each other out on their bluffs and just talking about potential threats, what would happen when they actually start going and implementing those threats? You
were the first to go on the air, and everybody has since been running this story. When you came on this show, as a matter of fact, sometime last week, I believe, and you mentioned rare earth minerals. China could somehow withhold those rare earth minerals, which could cause chaos economically. Explain that once more.
So China actually already did this back in 2010, and when they did that to mitigated about 40% of exports to Japan, they actually stagnated the entire tech economy for about 5 years, and that actually halted a lot of development. U.S. right now is known for actually the driving force behind new technology, and so without this supply of rare earth minerals, this could totally put a dent on the high-tech industry, which, as we said, has been pretty much fueling this entire bull market. The U.S. is driven by biotech, healthcare, and pretty much the tech sector. If we take out tech and biotech, then what's left to drive the U.S. market? And
interestingly enough, China has dominion of these rare earth minerals, right? Something like 80 or 90% of the world's rare earth minerals?
95% of the world's rare earth minerals, and U.S. claims 80% of those exports.
That is really something to follow. That's amazing. Christy, fantastic. Thanks for giving us this diagnosis. I think it makes a lot of people understand this a whole lot better. We're happy to have you. Thanks again.
Thank you.
I'm Rick Sanchez. You found us on YouTube, and that's awesome. But you know what? I'm also live every night at 7 and 8 p.m. Eastern on DirecTV and Dish and cable and satellite, the RT app, and Pluto TV. I'll see you there.